Welcome to Agents of IT, where we decode the future of enterprise automation and explore what it really takes to achieve agentic, zero-ticket IT. We chat with a wide variety of guests to discover what's broken in IT operations and spotlight the tech and teams leading the zero-ticket charge. Whether you're a CIO trying to shift from reactive firefighting to strategic value, or an automation architect building the next-gen service desk, this is the space for you.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Hoyer, CEO of Resolve.
And I'm Ari Stowe, COO of Resolve. And today we're joined by a special guest, our in-house man behind the scenes, Ian.
Hey, I'm usually the man behind the curtain, but today I'm riding shotgun with Sean and Ari to go over some headlines. This episode is a little bit different than our guest-centered ones. As you can see, we don't have an outside guest today, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some breaking agentic AI news and kind of give you our perspective on what it all means for automation, for zero ticket, and for your own journey with both of those elements. So guys, I was looking around for some good articles to kind of react to or take a deeper look at. And the first piece that I found was from Fortune, actually, by an author named Sharon Goldman. And it basically talks about how AI agents are one of the hottest trends in tech right now, but she has the opinion that they are still kind of in their awkward teenage years. And I think that's reflective of a perspective we're seeing in the market where some folks think that agents aren't production ready yet, but they're kind of on their way. So especially given that that's what we work in, I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on, is there credence to that? Where are AI agents? Are they in their teenage years or are they a little bit further along?
Yeah, no, listen, I'm in a hot take here. I'm going to disagree off the bat. You know, you got to love that.
Yep.
Look, I think the article makes a lot of good points, and I think it's a really fair point to highlight that, you know, they're not in their most productive state, right? Their final state. But for me, I feel like this is more like, you know, it's in the like post-college years, right? Like you graduated, you get your first job, you're still trying to figure out the world. Like there's a ton of value that AI and agentic AI is already providing to the workspace. So to say they're in their awkward teenage years is a little disingenuous. It's not, you know, we see tons of organizations using our product, using other products and AI agents to get a lot of value in their organization. So I think, you know, this was a little bit of like a hot take. She wanted to come in hot, and I think it's got some great points. But yeah, I'm curious, what did you think?
Ari's coming in hotter.
I did. I came. I
Good
disagree with you. I disagree.
Good for you, man. Well, so my daughter is 13, and so I have something to compare it to. I mean, I would say, you know, she's capable of doing some basic tasks, you know, around the house. Does she do them great? Not usually. So, you know, I mean, for me, it's interesting because it depends on what you want AI to do, right? And I think it's the task that you give it. This idea that AI is at a state where it could just be generally applicable and just generally go and approach and solve problems is unrealistic. So I 100% agree with you, Ari. In that vein, but also I think it's unrealistic expectations. Just like for a teenager, like you can't expect them to have all of the capacity of, you know, a fully formed adult. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that's what I've seen a lot of. I think it's what Ari and I've seen a lot of is if you apply it in the right place, it can be phenomenal. It can be a fully formed adult. It can be something that can solve real meaningful problems. It all boils down to the universe that you have it focus on. If the universe is too freaking big, it's not going to be able to be effective.
Yeah, there were two key points in this one that I think like got underplayed a little bit for me, which was one, it's about the guardrails you put on, right? And like, you know, if you put on the right guardrails, if you put the agent in the right situation, it's going to be successful, or it's going to be at least partially successful. And so like, I think that to me was a good takeaway, like whether you compare it to a teenager or a new worker or a senior worker, like if you give it the right context and the right guardrails and the right, you know, context to work off of, you're going to get more success. The other thing I think that like isn't fair is and we run into this all the time. Like, I think arguably all of the articles that we're going to talk through hit on like some of the trustworthiness and like trust of AI. And I think like at the end of the day, a lot of this comes back to that. And Sean and I had like a really funny conversation with somebody the other day about like, if when AI screws up, who are you going to fire? And it's like that mentality of it being the same as a person. Like, I know the concept of the agentic FTE or the agent FTE is like a cool concept for us, but really, like, your employees make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. So like the expectation that you're disappointed by AI because it failed at a thing or it hallucinated a thing. Like, I have employees that hallucinate things all the time, or that they, make a mistake and they misinterpret information because they weren't given the whole picture. So like, I just think it's unfair to pretend that AI is just going to, out of the box with no guardrails and no extra context, come in and solve all your problems. Like, that's unrealistic of anything, of anyone, of anything. So for me, it's just not really like you're comparing apples and oranges, right? Like, this isn't the Jetsons. It's advancements in technology. Yeah, sure. I'll get my car in a briefcase by someday.
And that's, I think there's when I'm looking at AI and I look at what we've done with automation over the last 15 years, there's a lot of really interesting overlap when it comes to adoption of it. And so like in automation, we see the exact same thing because we don't just automate basic things. We automate like mission critical processes. Like we automate like network configuration for telecommunications companies. Like we automate like remediation of issues in mission critical systems. And so like if our system doesn't work correctly, it can do the opposite of what it intended. It can take down a whole lot of things. And so like there is real risk involved in automating some of these very complex workflows. And so, a lot of what these articles talk about, we've already experienced with automation, like human in the loop, being able to show like a full audit trail of what you're doing, being able to break down a workflow into a set of steps that you can, for the first 20 times it runs, you can literally say, yes, take the next step. Yes, take the next step. And actually like see it do what it's supposed to do until you feel comfortable and confident that it's going to be able to execute in line with expectations.
Well, the other cool thing about that is like, so that's how we've handled it for automation for years, right? I mean, that's what we've been doing. But I think one of the cool things about AI, and this is the concept that Sean and I have been talking about a lot recently, of like the Guardian Angel AI, about, creating AI that's looking over the things that you're doing and the things your AI are doing, to be able to like to catch those kind of things. And I think that's a really big piece to this. Is one of the things that AI is helping us not just move faster, but catch mistakes faster. And so like, while yes, your AI may make mistakes, and yes, it has the potential to be potentially more catastrophic, if you're using your AI correctly, it's also going to catch those errors faster, or sometimes before they get put in place. And so like, it's really just, again, about governance, about the guardrails, about you're not going to get one agent to do all of the things. Like, you're not going to go, hey, GPT, go solve the world's problems, and then expect it to come back with world peace. Like, that's not going to happen.
It's going
right?
to solve it in the most basic way, Ari. It's going to come back like, here's your 5 steps to world peace.
3 pizzas for everyone, and all problems are solved, right? So yeah, I think like it's about like approaching this in a logical sense. Like, you can't just look at AI as a miracle cure for everything. It also has to be intent driven. Like, it has to be context aware, domain knowledgeable, and you've got to limit like, this AI is for this thing. That's why orchestration is so important. And that's why, Sean and I are both taking it up as kind of like a torch to carry on. Is, listen, everyone's implementing AI features. That's great. But you've got to have AI and agent orchestration to be able to hand the right tasks off to the right agents and kind of orchestrate that flow so that you do get, reduced risk, domain specific context, all of that good stuff. So I think it's a good article, but it oversimplified some of the bigger, more important pieces.
It's good, but Ari's just really
I did hate it. I did. I liked it, but I just think it was an oversimplification.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I want to, before we go to the next one, I want to briefly touch on something that Ari, you brought up a little while ago, and that was this notion of having little to no sight into how exactly an AI agent is going about a task. I believe the term for that is AI black box. Do either of you think that because obviously some organizations are, they're in a mindset where they feel like they can't adopt automation quickly enough, but others are a lot more cautious of being like, this technology is powerful, but how can we make sure that it's actually doing what we need it to do in the correct way? Do either of you see that fear kind of playing into reluctance to think that AI is ready for enterprises?
Yeah, I'll go first. 100%. I mean, just like we were talking about, same thing with automation is like the idea that you're just going to leap into trusting an AI to take on a task. It's unrealistic. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. And I spend a lot of time with these tools, and I've spent a lot of time with automation. Understand, I mean, one of the best ways that I've found, especially when you're doing research or when you're like looking into a topic you're not an expert in, so it's hard to tell whether or not it's hallucinating or not, is to ask it to tell you how it came to the conclusions it came to. Like, walk me through the steps, walk me through like the different articles that you pulled or the different sources that you've identified that actually point in the direction you're trying to point me in right now. And I think it's 100% critical to business use cases because, again, in business, it's as you give it the ability to do more and more critical tasks, the importance of it doing it right and being able to do it consistently right becomes incredibly important.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've touched on it a couple of times already. Like the trustworthiness part of it is going to be the toughest part. And again, like it's it's like the concept of black box isn't necessarily scary if you understand the inputs, the outputs, like the how it's getting to the thing. Like if you've given it, again, the guardrails that makes sense. Like it's only scary if you say like, go solve this problem, and you don't give it real context and you don't really give it any guardrails and you don't check up on it and you don't look at, like, then that's a scary concept that you're creating this AI black box that nobody knows how to unpack. But it's AI is going to solve some of these problems. It's also going to be a great resource to go and investigate the problems, to define the problems, to build a plan around the problems, and then to execute the problems. And so, like, we talk about this in a couple of other episodes with some of our guests, is like the future of this is having AI work with AI and humans as an AI team to do the things we're already doing as a business, just as a much faster pace and at a much larger scale, right? Go understand the problem, dig up all the details, go look at all the areas, tell me where all those are, where all the bodies buried, and then work with me to build a plan to solve that, to solve that problem. And then, okay, go implement that problem or go implement that solution. And so I think, listen, AI is definitely going to get better, and maybe that process gets even easier, and maybe it's able to do more and more of that on its own. I believe it will, but that's still fundamentally the process. It's just problem solving, right? It's the same process you teach a new employee to problem solve. And so when you're bringing somebody into an enterprise workforce, like this is what, when I grew up in business, the first time I worked at an enterprise, I went in all like, John Wayne, I'm going to write a solution to this problem. And people were like, whoa, we have process here. Like other people have to look at the stuff that you're deploying. You can't just do that. And so I think it's going to be, there's going to be similar. And luckily all of those things will get more efficient and they'll get better because AIs and different AI agents are going to do that for you. But like, there's still a process. There's still checks and balances. There's still guardrails. There's still things that are going to help you identify the risks. And it's not just like, go do this thing and come back to me when it's done and bring me my bucket of money.
Just so everybody knows, Ari grew up in the 50s. Hence the John Wayne reference. He just looks very young. So
it's hair dye. I basically look like Santa Claus. So.
So you're the gunslinger of IT issues.
Yeah,
actually, we can work that into something, I think. Well, I know, Ari, that you said that you were, providing kind of a really hot take, but my honest reaction as well is just like, yeah, it's true that there's always more to be done, but as long as you are willing to put in the work and provide the infrastructure and work with an AI agent, they will be able to, they are there. They are ready to solve businesses' problems.
Well, not
immediately, but go ahead.
Not to bury the lead, Ian, but like your next article that you had us look at is that, right? Like that was my favorite part about this is I read that first article and then I read the second article that was like, well, this isn't magic. It's a smarter way to work. And I was like, well, this guy gets it, right? Like this guy gets the concept. So I think like people are seeing that. It's just it's about the context of the problems they're trying to solve. So
yeah, and
not
no,
to
that's an
force
excellent
transition us to the next article, but
no,
Ready to
that's
move
a
on.
perfect that's a perfect segue.
Yeah, let's keep this rolling.
Yeah, but that's a great segue into our next article, which to your point is the thesis is agentic AI is not magic. It's a smarter way to work. This one comes to us from the fast mode. And basically, again, it's kind of positioning AI as not a silver bullet, but it's an intelligent coworker. And its success depends on clean data, structured knowledge, and domain expertise. So any thoughts on that with that?
I mean, I'm happy to start with another hot take. No hot take.
Oh man,
I actually think
you're gonna rage on this one too. Let's
no,
go.
no raging. I do think this one is was slightly more the other direction, which I think was kind of like an interesting, flow. I think that the concept of like AI as just a productivity increaser is also a little disingenuous. Like it is a little magic, and anyone who's used it can feel the magic of it, right? And the fact that AI is out there having gain of function moments where like even the people who made the models are like, we're not entirely sure how that happened or how that works. Like that by definition is magic, right? Like, so I think like my take on this article was it is great, right? Like there are aspects of AI that can absolutely increase your productivity exponentially. I mean, I've seen people that I know are 5 and 10x developers becoming 10 and 50x developers because of using AI intelligently, but it didn't eliminate their job. It's not doing their job for them. They're still having to direct it. They're still having to hook some of the back end pieces together. They're still having to sanity check some of the things and approve architecture. And so, like, even in the places where people are really excited about the leaps forward, it is just an accelerator. It is an absolute magic accelerator, but it is an accelerator. So, I mean, I think there are like I have hundreds of examples of customers that are using AI agents and automation to solve problems. I mean, one of my favorite ones that we've been doing for a while is we have a customer in South Africa that has power issues, and like it sounds simple and crazy, but when they're troubleshooting network devices and customer issues, they have an AI agent that goes out and checks several different known power sources from like the power company website, from a Twitter account that reports load shedding power outages in those areas. And it goes out and checks those and then brings that back as part of the troubleshooting process so that they don't deploy field service technicians to a place that's being load shed for power, because that costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And that sounds so simple, but it's such a practical use of AI agents and like such a waste of human time to go check a power website. And like, there's a million examples where I see it as not just a productivity enhancer, but like truly skipping a step in the process because it's able to do that repetitive and very, like mundane task for them and add a ton of value into the overall process. So
yeah, I mean that's the stuff that's exciting for me. I mean, when I first started using it, it was purely like help me with my task, not a do the task on my behalf. And I think we're starting to see a lot more people tipping into the do this task on my behalf. I think it's tech forward people. I mean, it's people like Ari and it's people like John, our CTO, that are like starting to truly create agentic solutions where they're chaining together agents to like take on tasks and do them on your behalf. And so I don't know. I think that's the way the adoption is going to continue to move. Like, and again, not to keep bringing back automation, but that's the way automation has evolved too. Is like the automations that our customers typically start with are things like diagnostics. They're things like troubleshooting. Yeah. They're things like what we call ticket enrichment, where it's just gathering information so that you don't have to go and like sift through different machines or whatever it is to figure out exactly what the diagnostics are. And so like as automation has evolved from, okay, great, now we've got a better picture of what the problem is so we can diagnose it. And then obviously the next step's going to be, great, can we actually automatically remediate it based on the data we've gathered? Can we diagnose the problem and take action to solve it? And AI is following the exact same progression that I've seen. Is it's starting with gathering all the context, because context is king when it comes to AI. And then once it's gathered the context and you feel good about its ability to, again, consistently solve the problem following a process, then you let it go and do the task. And now that's eliminated. It's off your desk. You don't ever have to do it again. And that's an amazing empowerment for an employee or for a business. Is it, again, it's not just making you more productive, it's eliminating a rudimentary task or a task that, like a repetitive task, so you never have to touch it again. It doesn't even have to enter into your brain.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the cool things about this so there's two really big things I liked about this article is, and one, I think I won't call it a hot take, but I think it is something that's interesting that a lot of these articles had in common, which is that when they reference AI and agentic AI, what they're actually meaning is AI plus automation. Like, a lot of times when we talk about AI, we're talking about the predictive analysis or the logic or the thinking of it, and we rarely ever talk about the action of it, which is automation. And so, like, that is where we obviously, as an automation company, have seen an incredible amount of value, is using AI to do some of the thinking, the processing, the context deriving aspect, and then using that to take action. And the two of those together is what I think is what we define as agentic AI, right? And so it's AI plus automation. And so I like that this article talks about that. But the most important thing that I think this article did that I really, really like is highlighting the concept of human and AI interaction, right? Like, it did such a great job of showing AI as a coworker, as a peer, as someone that's, like Sean said, that's going to go out and do some of the dirty work. Like, some of the use cases in IT that I find the most sexy from an AI and agentic AI perspective is those ones where we're in, like, a telco or a retail customer who has hundreds of thousands of distributed systems, tons of, different network paths, different things that could go wrong. And they use an army of AI agents that go out and do all of these health checks in all of these different areas and bring all that information back and then do the processing. Because that, like Sean said, that's the part of the job that sucks. Like, that's the time consuming job. And you feel like you feel like you're that clown pulling the scarf out of your mouth and it just keeps going. Like, that's what it's like sometimes. And in this case, you're literally empowering agentic AI to go out and do all of that for you, bring it back. And then, also it also offers its recommendations on what could happen. But ultimately, you plus the AI get to determine the outcome together. And maybe the answer is we need to build a new network segment because this isn't sustainable. And the AI would have never gotten there. It would have recommended how to solve the problem, but not how to prevent the problem. And you get to have these conversations with these agents to solve the problem in the way that, you as a business think it makes the most sense. And so I love the concept of, like, this, I think the article calls it a partnership, which I thought was like a beautifully worded thing, right? AI and human partnership, because they are, autonomous, and they do have they have thinking and some would argue reasoning, some would argue not. But I think that the part of this that's cool is it is a partnership, and you can really derive a lot of value out of that partnership if you use it correctly.
Yeah, I really think that's kind of the crux of the article, is that there are a group of people who are concerned about AI because they're coming from the perspective, in their minds, they're thinking that AI is going to 100% take over a function or a responsibility, whereas the reality is a bit more nuanced. It can automate a lot of the, quote unquote grunt work, but you still need a human in the driver's seat to kind of coordinate, and then you have an outcome that is kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I mean,
well, yeah, and this leans into, like, what machines are good at too. Like Ari was talking about, like, being able to go, if you're gathering massive amounts of information to try to diagnose a big system failure, machines are incredibly good at pattern recognition, like incredibly good, especially when you're talking about large data sets. Like, that is very difficult for most humans to put that much into their brain. Like, The flip side of that, though, is like there are these special people that have been doing a given job for so long that they have intuition about where the smells are at. But that's something that you can teach to an AI as well. That's something that you can train it on. Is like, man, I've seen this kind of problem before. Here's where I would start, and you give the machine that context. And it can go and again, go and drill down and dive deep within seconds or minutes, whereas a human, it might take hours. And like, that's a huge boost to productivity. And then again, if you can tie that to a consistent and repeatable resolution, then that problem never has to enter your brain again.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for providing a reaction to that. I enjoyed that article as well. I think it was a little bit more nuanced than the first one, but still some good things to bear in mind. With that, let's quickly pivot over to the third article that I found. This comes to us from a publication called Payments. I presume it's pronounced that way. It's all caps PYMNTS. So if I'm wrong,
I also struggled with that. So I thought Payments was right. I like it.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and presume that, but if I'm mistaken, let me know. This one kind of ties back to the first article we talked about, where a lot of folks are skeptical that AI agents really are ready to take on responsibilities. But the context for this one was a bit more specific. This kind of focused more on FinServe. The article basically claims that CFOs are not rushing into agentic AI. And the article claims that only about 15% are interested in deploying it today. And the article goes on to talk about how the biggest obstacles to enthusiasm for adopting it are trust, transparency, and integration hurdles. So there are a couple of different angles to tackle here. The first is that it sounds like legacy system integration is a major barrier for a lot of organizations, but especially in finance and payments. And there's also a much greater concern about the lack of real-time observability, making it harder to ensure that agents don't go rogue. So we're kind of back at the black box AI concern, but it's more specifically about it pertaining to legacy systems and these fears of an AI doing a task incorrectly or a human operator not being able to kind of interface with that. So I'm curious to hear from both of you, whenever you've talked with clients or potential customers, like, how does this concern come up a lot? And like, what do you tell someone who might be kind of worried or antsy about it?
Start small.
I mean, obviously, yes, the trust is a big piece to this. I mean, we've talked about it in each of these articles. Like the trust and trusting what the technology is doing and the parameters that you've put into it is definitely one of the largest pieces of it. And honestly, with any new technology, it's trust. Like, I laughed a little bit when we were talking about this, because this article was really funny to me, because it was basically like FinServe and finance and customers who have struggled to move off of mainframes are struggling to adopt AI. And in my head, I was like,
shocking.
Yeah, duh. Like, yeah, like, tell me something else I couldn't have guessed with my eyes closed, right? So I think like that one is, it's interesting. It's also funny because those are some of the customers I've seen the coolest and most value from. I mean, like, Sean and I laugh all the time when people are like, well, you can't really automate mainframes. And I'm like, dude, we have customers who have used our product to give an API to a mainframe, which when you see that happen, they're like, wow, this, not that it's a good thing, but they're like, wow, this has added years to us having to replace this COBOL application or this mainframe application. And so, like, to me, I think, again, it's about having it do the right things. I mean, yeah, like, it's certainly scary. The concept of an AI agent going rogue is, you hear about that few and far between. If you go look at all the articles out there, 80% or more of the articles about AI doing something malicious or ending in something malicious was mostly somebody using AI to social engineer a person. People are the weakest link in that chain. And so, like, I think that again, it's about providing guardrails, making sure that they're aware of the potential risk of things that could happen, that they're put in place to do the right things, and then you orchestrate across lots of AIs. And so I think, like, Sean's point about start small is not necessarily if you're afraid and you aren't sure, start small. Start by solving the like, medium value or high value thing that's very repetitive and annoying to do, and you don't, no one on your team likes doing it, solve that problem, and then let it just work in that area, and then slowly expand the scope or give it access to another agent and start to bring them together, and then you'll start to see the magic. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's funny because, like, if you look at like major financial institutions, investment banking, like they have been investing in AI since AI became a thing. Like they have probably spent the most money out of any like sector in business on AI because they're trying to figure out, they're trying to game the system. They're trying to figure out, like, is this stock going to go up or down? Can I predict the markets? Can I predict fluctuations in currency exchange? Like they've been using AI in a meaningful way for forever. But on the flip side, when it comes to like operations of their business, they are still in a space where, some of them are reluctant to rely on AI to run operations. So it's a very interesting like dichotomy where like they see tremendous value in leveraging AI to try to predict complex systems, right? To look at all the variables and how they could play off each other, and like, again, try to predict if this thing changes, if like this lever gets pulled, what happens to this space over here. And but when it comes to like, hey, can you help me speed up these sets of transactions against like these ledgers or whatever like that, like then they start to get a little weary. Which, again, like if you've spent that much time with AI, you understand what it's good at and what it's not good at, and you start to learn about like how you can tweak it. And I think, Ari's highlighted it a couple of times now, is you leverage AI for what it's good at today, which is like the intelligence piece of like gathering information, understanding like the different options that you have to approach a given problem, like the probability that the issue is here or here. And then if you don't trust the AI to take action, you have a human in the loop to help with that action. And then ultimately, and this is something like I've kind of hinted at a few times when I say like ensure it does it consistently. Like this is the other thing, is AI has this, I mean, in today's world, it will approach a problem in 5, 10, 20, 50 different ways, 50 different times. That doesn't mean it's wrong, but if you're looking for a truly consistent and repeatable remediation or resolution, then the leap needs to be into like a structured workflow. It needs to be, and AI can even help you build the workflow, like it doesn't mean that it can't be done in a meaningful way. It just means that you have to start to combine technology and solutions as these things mature. And I do believe there's going to come a time in the next year to 2 years where the combination of a highly structured like workflow engine that can do things at a massive scale and incredibly consistently following known patterns, with an intelligence engine that is really good at pattern recognition, identifying the problems and root cause, like the marriage of those two things is going to provide the biggest impact for enterprises, because you get the intelligence of AI along with the repeatability, consistently traceability, like all the good ilities of automation and orchestration.
The good ilities, I like that.
I mean, I had a really interesting conversation with somebody in the financial services, well, actually at a credit card company a couple of weeks ago, and it was like at a dog park, so it wasn't even like it wasn't a business conversation. We were just talking about it. And it is my hangout, basically work and the dog park. And we were talking about like, he was saying his company doesn't like AI and they're actually not allowed to use GPT. So like, and he told me, I'll leave him anonymous, but he's like, I occasionally break the rules and I'll ask my personal GPT questions and try. But it was funny because I was like, hey, I was thinking about this, I went back and I told him, I was thinking about this the other day when we talked about how you use AI in your organization, and like they're already using AI to protect revenue for fraud detection, right? Like that was something we talked about, is they're using algorithms to look for anomalous activity on credit cards to stop their dollars. But do you know what one of the number one calls that they get is? Lost access to my online banking, and they have an automated password reset. And that, so like to me it was just so funny because they were like, well, we're not 100% sure how, like we don't want to let AI and automation take care of that, because what if it's not the person asking about it? And I was like, dude, like you're not going to be able to, an agent is not going to know anymore that it's Ian calling me and with these answers to these questions, or if it's, you know, Sean pretending to be Ian. And he was like, yeah, I guess it's a fair point. So it's just interesting that, like, as a business, they've thought about using AI to solve the money problems, right? Like to stop them from losing revenue or de-risking some of those things. But they haven't always thought about how to use AI and automation to stop losing customers because of a bad experience, or to make their customers' lives a better situation. And I think, to me, honestly, that's one of the biggest things that this AI movement has created, is we're now, because AI is so accessible, we're now looking at it as a better path in towards things that you maybe wouldn't have thrown at it before. And I think we have, because we've been in this industry for a while, we've thrown automation at these things, but I think it's opening the Pandora's box a little bit, and people are going to be nervous about it. But I think, like, it's, it's not that scary. And if you start small and you start contextually aware and you grow it, I think that is de-risking it for sure. Obviously, you're not going to say, come run my business, but, or you might, but that's definitely more risky.
Is this a peek into ideas that you've had when you've been, like, feeling really sick one day, Ari, and you're like, what if I create Robo Ari?
I don't know what I would do.
I mean, all you got to do is show up to meetings and say inspirational things. Like, you basically do my job.
Inspiration bot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've created Sean Bot 2000. It's just, it finds inspirational quotes and shows up to meetings and inspires
you can
people.
do this. Lean in.
No, listen, I do think I've leveraged AI in my personal work life to simplify all of the information sources that I have coming in, to try and give me, like, actionable tasks. I use a lot of AI assistants. Basically, like, I use meeting hosts to tell me what are the action items, what are the things that need to get done, how do I move the needle on this, and then I go do them. And so I think, that's not what this article is talking about. This article was talking about the gap of, like, operationalizing AI. And I do think, like, the article makes a lot of fair points, and there are some CFOs that are right. And if you go look at, other articles or other studies out there, there are tons of organizations that are overspending on AI right now and not getting the value that they want. But those organizations are trying to figure out where AI is valuable. And I very much anticipate, some of those spends will get pared back. Some of them will get doubled down and invested more, and then they'll start to see the ROI. But, like, it's a fact gathering experiment, right? And if you're not doing anything, you're missing out. Like, you may not get the 50% increase in margins that you're expecting, but if you're not doing it today, you'll never see that change in margins. You're only going to see growth that you can't support without embracing AI. So I think it's a bit of a necessary evil to, like, dip your toe in the pond. And of course, I'm a little biased, but I think, we've seen how fast this is moving. And if you stand still, you're going to get passed by. And what's scary is, as fast as you're moving, you're not going to be able to catch up. It's going to be really, really hard. So,
yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for providing that. The Cliff Notes version of this reaction is Sean saying, start small. So that's the super succinct version. But yeah, there's more nuance to this than a lot of the articles you see out there, because you see stories that end up actually being a case of social engineering rather than, like, Terminator. They'll even put Terminator in the thumbnail of the article, and that can be a bit scary. But if you keep reading, you might find a bit more nuance there. All right, we have our last article for today. This one is a piece about how agentic AI will impact software engineering, and this comes to us from Computer World. So we've touched on this a little bit about fears of AI taking over jobs, but this one touches more specifically on software development, and a lot of discussion. Some of it might be valid, some might be a bit hyperbolic, about how all of these software engineers need to scramble to reskill as coding agents take over routine programming tasks. And it kind of starts off with that, but I appreciated the more subtle viewpoint that it led to, which is something that we also believe is, it's not replacing humans. It means that workflows and roles are evolving. And that's one of our central motifs, is teams being freed up for higher level governance instead of reactively firefighting routine tasks. So was there anything along those lines in this article that jumped out to either of you? Do you have any thoughts on this idea of agentic AI impacting software engineering?
Yeah, I mean, my hot take on this article was, duh.
Is that how
Like,
you're going to begin every opinion you
yeah,
give?
Yeah, he's
apparently.
he
Uh,
likes to play devil's advocate. It's like it's his unwritten
Oh,
role.
It is true. That is
gotcha.
true.
It is.
But I actually don't have any devil's advocate on this article. I mean, like, the answer to this is yeah, of course. Like, if you're not reskilling, regularly in your job, like then
Yeah.
what are you even doing? Like, there's if you look back at software engineering, like Sean and I, well, when I was
You
learning
have to call me old,
to,
Ari. I saw
yeah,
it
yeah.
coming.
Sorry, I'm trying to like tiptoe around this
Yeah,
because we
that's
are,
cool.
yeah, we're the same
Get
age.
out.
But like, the languages we use aren't the languages that are used today. Like
Yeah.
the concept of reskilling is an insane concept. Like, of course you are. If you know what else did this when we introduced DevOps, but you know who's complaining about how great DevOps is? No one, because nobody liked to do the crappy manual stuff they were doing. Like, so
Yeah.
I think the answer to this is like, yeah, software engineering is absolutely going to change. Yes, these co-pilots are going to help you deliver things faster, better, hopefully less buggy, because the testing of this, like, that's been my favorite thing is, as a developer, when I was in the game, like, the thing I hated the most was testing my own code. And obviously you bring a ton of bias to that. So like, I love that video of the lady who's like, oh, the square peg goes in the round hole, the bridge goes in the round hole, right? Like, and that's the same
Yeah.
thing. Like, it's that concept of like, nobody wanted to do that work. That work was just a necessary evil, and AI is helping that necessary evil become easier and easier. And sure, man, skill up and have the AI help you write better code, write faster code, and be a member of the team. And I think that's the future of the world. Is every good engineering person, every good software engineer is going to have their own private set of agents that help them write good code and deliver the thing that they want to deliver. And sometimes it'll be faster. Almost always it'll be faster. Sometimes it'll take more iterations than, just one, but like, that's the benefit of it being faster. And so, like, yeah, I mean, this article is, to me, was like, yeah, great.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think, I mean, the foundation of it, to me is illogical. Like I don't know anybody that got into coding as like a software engineer that doesn't enjoy learning. Like
Yeah.
because you can't like in it, like, yes, things are moving fast with AI, but man, things have been moving fast for the last forever, right? Since
Yep.
coding, like from punch cards till now, like it has been a continuous evolution. Like I started writing code like 25 years ago, and it, like, the things I had to do 25 years ago to get an application stood up, just like a freaking hello world application stood up. What
Yeah.
was, I mean, it was a bit of a feat, right? I mean, I wasn't a great engineer, but it took me a while to do it. Today, that stuff just happens, man. You don't even have to think about it. It just wires it up. It'll create an app server for you. Like, it just does all these things on your behalf. And the co-pilots allow you to take that so much further, man. Like, you can create a full stack basic web application with a database and like different security protocols around it and everything, just like that, just by talking with a co-pilot. And then you can talk to the co-pilot to evolve it. Like, you don't have to go into the CSS to change the styling on your page. You can tell it, hey, I want to use this color palette on my website. Like, go and show me what that'll look like. And, well, no, here, go tweak this and tweak that. And like, I want rounded edges because rounded edges are cooler. And so, like, make freaking rounded edges
For this
like,
month, and then Square's going to come back. Yeah.
back in the day, you had to go manually change all these freaking files to do that. And if you missed one, if you screwed up and you missed one of those files, like, your website looked clunky and shitty, and like one page didn't really look good. Like, and so I don't know, man. I'm definitely in the camp of like, if you're not figuring out how to leverage these solutions to be able to write better code, cleaner code, faster code, then, what were you doing as a software engineer in the first place?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the other side to this, which I think like gets overlooked a lot, is this going to create a new problem? Like, are we going to get sloppy code? Is there going to be AI slop? Yeah,
Yeah.
of course there is. But you know what? There's always those problems. Like that's not like that's a new problem. The clean code movement didn't start until the early 2000s. So it's not like, it's not like people were like, oh, before this, everyone was writing beautiful, pristine code and only used the minimum number of lines. Like, that's not real. So, like, the cool thing is, yeah, this is going to create a new problem. We may not even know what that problem is yet. It's going to create a new problem, and we're going to go solve that problem too. And AI is probably going to help us solve that problem. So, like, realistically speaking, these doomsday articles about like, oh, now we've got this problem. Yeah, okay, and that problem will solve, and then it'll beget a new problem. And like, that is just the nature of development and innovation, is moving forward. And so yeah, I think like, yeah, to Sean's point, everyone who's working in this industry, who's worth their weight, is eager to learn a new thing, and they're going to learn this, they're going to master it, and then they're going to learn the next thing too, because that's what's going to happen. And so
push the boundaries of it.
yeah.
If you want like a static job where you just do the same thing for 30 years, like I don't know if you're going to find that in today's world. I mean, technology just moves way too quickly. Like you're going to have to learn and adapt. And like Ari's point, I think is a phenomenal one of like this I know plenty of like architectural zealots when it comes to like software, and they push it too far in many cases as well. Like, so you can over architect systems just as easily as you can write spaghetti code. Like, you can do both. And Ari's talked about it a few times of like, AI isn't going to be perfect, but it can accelerate you getting to an outcome. And so like, if your ideal, if it's not perfect, you don't want to use it, then you should fire every employee you have. Because I don't know a single human that is perfect. Not a single one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think like the cool part about this and this article was this felt so like adjacently aligned to our approach to zero ticket IT. Like, to me, zero ticket IT is the same concept for IT people, right? Like, what we're going to be using automation and agentic AI for is to get you more proactive than reactive, to get you solving these problems before many customers experience them, right? Like, there will always be a new problem that comes up that you didn't experience because of a new tool you adopted, or a new government regulation in your industry or whatever, right? But the cool part about it is the first or second time you experience it, you're using AI and automation to figure out how to solve it, and then now it's always solved. Like, now you're solving the next problem or the next thing. And so like, to me, the cool part about this is this is another accelerator into becoming proactive instead of reactive, or more quickly reactive. And I don't mean more quickly in like handling that ticket faster. I mean more quickly into solving it proactively, right? So like, you see a problem for the first time, your job is to take that problem, define it, deliver it, get AI to help you solve it, and then never have to deal with that problem again. And so I think like that is, to me, that's the exciting future of like where we're headed, is the ability to just like constantly be shifting your customer and your customer's customer experience for the better every time they have a new problem, because new problems are going to happen. And like, that's just that's the nature of the world.
Humans have a way of creating problems.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. So
I still just can't believe that nobody was so you're telling me that before the clean code movement, like, I just assumed everyone was just a coding Mozart, but it seems like that was a delusion that's
Uncle
just
Bob?
been shattered.
Is that the book, Clean Code? Like, it's on one of these shelves somewhere for me. And I mean, I read it a few times, and I like, there's this saying that I was taught early in like software development of like, if you're not embarrassed of the code you wrote yesterday, then you're not learning fast enough. And I mean, that epitomizes what makes a great software engineer, in my opinion, and why you should get into the space in general. And so like, again, like the technologies, the tools, and the opportunity for you to really push boundaries now is, I don't know, it's so much more than it was in the past. Like, these tools are incredibly powerful if you want to have an impact. And I don't know, get out there and learn them.
I mean, I liked the thing that I like, just kind of calling back to what you said. Like, I think the really cool thing about this and about the technology and about where we are, like, I've heard people call this like the technology renaissance, right? Where we're like, we have stuff moving so fast that it's, our industrial revolution in AI. But like, what I actually think is really cool is this has finally helped more people shift to outcomes. Like, this is what I think is the most important, is now you're starting to see technology moving so fast in certain areas that it didn't necessarily do it before, that you don't have the time to be a zealot about the process, or a zealot about, architecture, or a zealot about ITSM, or an ITIL zealot. Like, that just isn't a thing. What you need to be a zealot of is continually improving and improving the outcomes. And so, like, I think, I attribute like the big shift of outcome based behavior to like the as a service model, the like software as a service, that really started to be like, okay, I don't care that you're providing me software, I just care that that software is available to me, and how you do it is on you, right? I think that was a big shift in IT to like the concept of outcome based. But I think that this is really driving people's attentions to outcomes. And one of the things I think that this AI movement has really done that's been really beneficial is it started to reconnect your software engineering teams to the business outcomes and to what they're driving for. And I know that's true here. Like, 5 years ago, I mean, I wasn't at Resolve 5 years ago, but 5 years ago, I was working with a great team of engineers, but most of our engineers didn't really understand the value we were providing for the customer. Today, that isn't a luxury that they have. And the cool part is, because they don't have to spend as much heads down time investigating things, and they can leverage AI to do some of that work, they're able to be a part of these more strategic conversations of, this is the thing we're trying to drive for our customers, or the customer of our customers. And now you've got outcome developed software that our engineers understand the outcomes we're trying to drive better than ever before. And I think like that, if anything, that's one of the coolest benefits I think that AI has given, is you have to.
I mean, if you look at the startup world in the last year, 2 years, man, like, you see it in the startup world. Like, these founders are able to now create businesses from scratch and take them to 100 million ARR in what seems like overnight, because they identified a real meaningful problem, and they sat down and they vibe coded their way to a first iteration of it. And then they just continued to build and expand on that capability. And they did it incredibly rapid. Like, solopreneurship right now is hot. Like, in the tech space, you can do incredibly impactful things as a solopreneur. And that's the same inside of a business too, right? It's like, we don't have a 1,000-person engineering organization like focused on our outcomes. Like, we believe in having a handful of incredibly smart, talented, focused people. And I believe, and I mean, I was a part of the Amazon cult, so like, I might have got it from there. It's like, I believe like a small set of really focused, really talented people can change the world. And you don't have to have 1,000 people in today's world.
And I mean, I think that's true. I think that's true, in software engineering, but just again, to tie this back, like, this is also true in the service desk, right? I mean, this is the same thing. Is for years, people have struggled to create this concept of like a white glove experience, but it used to be very hard and very expensive, because you had to have all of the white gloves to go and touch all of the people. And that's a hard thing to do and scale and be profitable as a business. And now that you've got IT leaning into these tools and these processes and being proactive, and it's not just that they weren't doing it before, but that they're empowered to do it at a scale and an exponential ability with these tools, is going to lead to more organizations feeling like they're getting a white glove experience without having to foot the bill of a white glove cost.
Yeah, no doubt. Imagine being an employee and feeling like you had a dedicated IT person to help you with any problem you had.
Yeah.
I mean, having worked in a large company, that would have been spectacular.
Yeah, and that it wasn't like, did you unplug your modem?
It didn't treat me like an idiot.
Wait 10 seconds. Did you plug it back in?
You turn it off and turn it back on for me?
Yeah. So like Listen, I don't want to be in an episode of the IT crowd. But yeah, I do think like, yeah, I mean, I'm very excited to see where this continues to go. And I look at some of the outcomes our customers are driving today, and they're already exciting. As this technology advances over the next 1, 3, 5 years, like the possibilities are going to be super exciting and endless, because I think AI is going to get better, more efficient, all of the right things. And so, yeah, I'm pumped.
Future of IT is zero ticket. All right. Well, that comes up on time. Thank you both for coming to the show today and doing a bit of homework and providing these reactions. Now it's time for me to go back behind the curtain and get things put together. But we just want to say to our audience, thank you so much for listening. Keep an eye out for more episodes like this and more episodes where we chat with our customers. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to this episode of Agents of IT. If today's conversation got you thinking differently about your own IT operations, or if you're curious about how agentic automation is helping teams make the zero-ticket vision a reality, please don't forget to like and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's next. See you next time.